Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Nichols. Let's get right into it. Here's how online propaganda actually works. We are going to cover the basics of propaganda so we are all speaking the same language. And then we'll cover some of the verified Russian propaganda campaigns from the 2016 election. So we'll start with some basics about me. You can find me on Twitter at WVU Alpha Soldier. I started my career in PSYOP at the JFK Special Warfare Center and School in 2006. I had my first tour as a tactical soldier in Iraq in 2008. In 2010, I was the chief propaganda analyst for United States Forces Iraq. In 2011 and 12, I was in Afghanistan as the atmospherics manager in Kandahar and a liaison officer for the PSYOP task force in Kabul. After Afghanistan, I used that background in PSYOP and social engineering to fight the bad guys in cyberspace with Flashpoint from 2012 to 2015. Since then, I've been an independent security contractor doing odd security jobs in DC and the Baltimore area. Now, let's start with definitions. PSYOP are planned operations to convey selected information to target audiences. This is done by appealing to emotions, motives, and reasoning with the ultimate goal of changing the behavior of those target audiences. The mission statement for PSYOP is to persuade, change, and influence the hearts and minds of foreign nationals to meet U.S. objectives. This is essentially how PSYOP works at the high level and comes from the PSYOP Leadership Handbook. Because it's the government lowest bidder, they spelled reference incorrectly. We begin the 7-step PSYOP process with the planning phase. We take our orders here from the Secretary of Defense and the President. They detail the psychological objectives, or POs, and we begin crafting our supporting psychological objectives, SPOs. The PSYOP objective is the overall behavior to be changed. The supporting PSYOP objectives are the specific actions the target audience can take to show us that they believe in the psychological objective. Next, we move on to target audience analysis. This is where we figure out the specific details for each target audience. Target audience analysis is the bread and butter of what it is to be a PSYOPer. This includes quite a bit of data, and I'm not going to go into it in full. The key items to understand here are that this is where we figure out the conditions, vulnerabilities, and susceptibilities of the target audience. Conditions detail everything from the weather down to any other significant detail in the living of the target audience. The vulnerabilities are specific characteristics or motives that we could use to affect the target audience's behavior. And susceptibilities are where we identify the types of logical appeals most likely to work against the target audience. Then we go into series development, using the series concept worksheet. These are worksheets that help us through the PSYOP campaign's iconography, color schemes, main arguments, and message themes that we intend to use. This is very similar to marketing. For example, a McDonald's series is known for the motto, "I'm loving it," and the Golden Arches. We develop a different series for each target audience in an attempt to get that audience to conduct the activities we identified in the supporting PSYOP objectives. In the example cases identified here, we have Durrani males and Ghilzai females. These are actual tribes in Afghanistan. You can see in this specific instance, the PSYOPers decided that they are targeting Durrani males with PSYACs, or specific actions taken to motivate the target audience, handbills, and newspaper articles. In Series B, the PSYOPers found that Ghilzai females don't really read newspapers, probably because they are largely illiterate, and chose to use radio interviews and TV commercials instead. Now, let's do this for real.
And what the objectives appeared to be, first of which was to cast doubt or cause doubt in the minds of the public or the electorate. And then secondly, of course, was again this animus, personal animus Putin had towards Secretary Clinton. And then as things unfolded, because initially the Russians, I don't believe, took Trump seriously as a candidate, just like no one else did either. But as things transpired, and particularly when he became the Republican nominee, their focus kind of changed, I think, towards, even when the polls indicated that Secretary Clinton was going to win, they were focused kind of how to undermine her potential presidency. And then when he became the nominee, what could they do to favor him?
Our mission now is to reverse engineer the Russian PSYOP objective. Director Clapper has just outlined for us what those objectives were. First, cast doubt in the U.S. electoral process and the U.S. system of government. Second, degrade confidence in Hillary Clinton, making it more difficult for her to govern if she wins. And third, support Donald Trump. Now we can extrapolate the supporting PSYOP objectives. For those of you reading ahead, this was done by looking at each piece of verified Russian propaganda and identifying how those messages supported the PSYOP objectives. The ones we're going to be focusing on here are 1. Target audiences express distrust for political rallies and protests. 2. Target audience conducts activity which is considered divisive by other Americans. 3. Target audience votes for Donald Trump. And 4. Target audience expresses support for Trump on social media. The potential target audience list is, of course, the entire US electorate, but we will see the Russian broke down their target audience into slightly smaller groups. I will demonstrate 2 verified Russian PSYOP campaigns which targeted the LGBT community and the Tea Party. The first series we will identify today was the LGBT United campaign. This is a Russian series that was targeted at the LGBT community. These are 2 examples of Russian propaganda. They were pulled straight from the Google, Facebook, and Twitter discussions with the House Intelligence Committee. Sources are in the description. These items were specifically chosen as the US government and the social media companies have confirmed that these were Russian ads paid for by the Internet Research Group. There is no speculation being made here. In case 1, you see that we have Bernie Sanders' coloring book. In the other case, we have an anti-Westboro Baptist Church message. Looking at the metadata, we are able to see exactly how much the Russians spent in terms of rubles in this campaign. Yes, they actually paid for this in rubles. We will also see the post's impressions were and the number of clicks. This provides us with an effective measure of effectiveness. Then, most importantly for our target audience analysis, we can actually see the specific people they targeted. As you can see, they targeted people who matched with interests for the LGBT community, Hillary Clinton, and same-sex marriage. This is notable as there is no indication in the messages themselves that they cared anything about Hillary Clinton. So we can do our target audience analysis and reverse engineer what they were getting at. The Russian PSYOP objectives, the Russians wanted the target audience to take away from this campaign are cast doubt on the US political system and degrade confidence in Hillary Clinton. Below those, we see the supporting PSYOP objectives they likely used, and we can identify the main arguments that the target audiences were likely being asked to support. Here, the target audiences were being asked to support Bernie Sanders and to express distrust in US protests. Using standard online marketing metrics, we can identify how successful this campaign was. Based on market research, a campaign is successful if it achieves click rates of about 0.05%. With around 5,000 impressions and 300 clicks, this campaign achieved 0.06% and should be considered successful. In this example, we have 3 Tea Party messages. The first one asks the audience if they want to help make America great again, and suggests they post pictures and videos of their children under the hashtag #KidsForTrump. In doing so, the audience will be showing their patriotism. In the second text, you see the Russians showing pictures of kids shooting weapons. The text states that this is the way that we have to raise our children, and that following the account demonstrates how proud the audience is to be an American. In the final image, we see that Florida goes Trump, that most Florida cities are supporting Trump, and that people who support Trump should follow and DM the Russian actors for support. As with the LGBT campaign, we are able to see specifically who they targeted, how they targeted, and how effective that targeting was. This helps us reverse engineer where the messaging was effective and where it may not have been. In this case, the target audience was the Tea Party. The current behavior of the target audience was that they already supported Trump. The Russians desired the target audience to continue this behavior while also engaging in divisive messaging by posting pictures of themselves, considered divisive by other Americans. In this particular instance, we find the message reached far more people than the LGBT community did. But we have some less effective engagement rates. With over 28,000 impressions, they only have about 1,000 click rates, or 0.003%, and would be considered relatively ineffective in terms of engagement. While we did not show every instance of Russian propaganda, there are plenty of examples readily available online. Some of the verified Russian messaging can be found on the House Intelligence Committee website, which I've linked you to in the description. To wrap this up, let's review the supporting PSYOP objectives and see what we can learn. The first SPO wanted the target audience to cast doubt on the validity of the U.S. electoral system. As we've seen at the White House website, the White House itself is stating that there was a significant number of voter fraud cases in America. I would say that in this case, they would find themselves somewhat effective. Next, we see that the target audience was supposed to not participate in the U.S. election. Looking at the data, we find that 58% of eligible voters went to the polls, or roughly the same turnout that we found in 2012. In this case, the Russians might not have been successful. We see here that the target audience was to express a distrust of political rallies. As Sputnik shows us, yes, that's Sputnik. The US population has been setting record numbers of political rallies, suggesting the Russians maybe didn't meet their objective this time. For SPO4, the target audience was to conduct activity which creates a more divisive America. In this case, they probably consider themselves to have succeeded in spades. Unfortunately, today we find that Americans are potentially more divided than they have been since the Civil War. So we'll call this one a win for the bad guys. Here we see that the Russians wanted people to express a dislike for Hillary Clinton. I think anybody with a social media account has found themselves flooded with anti-Clinton posts. Here the target audience was supposed to express a preference for rivals to Hillary Clinton. Again, I think the numbers speak for themselves, especially in the lead up to the Democratic primary, when many Clinton supporters switched over to the Sanders camp. Finally, the target audience was to express a preference for Donald Trump. Clearly, this one worked. Those are the sources. There are 3 PSYOP field manuals and a list of verified Russian propaganda items available for anyone who wants to check my work.